I wake up tired. Leaving coffee doesn't help. I wanna set my alarm on fire, but I know that it wouldn't end too well. Would somebody please just help me? I can't quite explain what's happening to me. What's happening to me? Day in and day out, body's aching all the time now. Every day feels like Groundhog Day. Got me feeling like I'm Bill Murray. Would somebody please just help me with figuring out what's happening to me? What's happening to me? Maybe it's 'cause I'm growing Would somebody please just help me with figuring out? And I can't quite explain what's happening to me.
Warning: this podcast features adult subject matter, adult language, and things not meant for children to hear. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. Live everybody here on the I'm No Joe YouTube channel. Welcome everyone to the latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like an Eddie Bravo. Thank you all for tuning in for this very interesting episode we've got waiting before us here. A lot of interesting things to talk about this evening here, but before we dive too deep into it here, let's go around real quick and thank these fine folks who are here to help me kick this shenanigans show off. First and foremost, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only Nick Devine is here, ladies and gentlemen. How the hell are you doing, sir?
What's up, guys? What's up, everybody in chat? Let's get this party started.
Hell yeah. And then, as is most cases, as is the case most days, see, I knew I'd get there. Across the octagon from me, as it were, my Wednesday night brother from another mother, my combat shit-talking homeboy, the one and only Golf T Vapes. How are you, sir?
And fucking tastic. I'm glad this is going to be an excellent fucking weekend. Got two major things going on this weekend. A full fucking UFC card and BKFC. It doesn't get much better than that.
Oh yeah, we've got all kinds of beautiful violence lined up for us this weekend. So let's dive right into it here. As soon as I do that thing that I remember that I was told by a person much smarter than me, start the episode by telling people where they can find more. So, if you enjoy the content we provide here on the I'm No Joe podcast, you can find us everywhere on the I'm No Joe moniker. We are on Facebook, I'm No Joe, Instagram, I'm No Joe, YouTube, I'm No Joe, Mixer, Anchor for the all audio version, even Patreon is I'm No Joe. Anything you fancy from us, follow us there. So, that out of the way. Let's dive right into it with the segment we love to open the show with here, news and recent events. All of the big goings on, the announcements, the fights that have been told about, all the things that have happened since we last saw you fine folks. So, we're going to open it up with some good news and some bad news here. The bad news is, unfortunately, for the second time now, starting to build its own Tony and Khabib curse. The Chaz Skelly versus Grant Dawson fight has officially been scrapped again. Chaz Skelly has injured his knee. They are not sure to the extent. They believe it is a torn ACL, but they are getting him checked out. They just know that he's having trouble walking. There's no way he's going to be able to get out. So, unfortunately, that fight, once again, is scrapped for the second time. Hopefully, with those gentlemen, third time's a charm, and we don't get a full Tony and Khabib 5 run. Hopefully, we get it done this time in April's situation. Now, the good side of that, is that as they were announcing it, Chaz Skelly was injured and that fight was off, they also gave us another little piece here for April's lineup. The Lincoln, Nebraska card on the 25th, we are going to see Shamil Gazmatov against OSP. So they are bringing him back. They're finally getting him back into the octagon. Shamil, we've seen a couple of times over the last year. Not quite a household name just yet, still an upcoming prospect, but a very large gentleman with very bad intentions, and OSP's not going to have a cakewalk, especially with the potential ring rust that we're looking at from him. So it's going to be interesting to see, as we get a little closer, to see the training videos from those two and see how that fight actually starts to stack up. Now, an interesting one that we've got that's actually going to tie into the meat and potatoes, as it were, later on in the episode. We did find out about a week or so ago, not quite a week ago. I think it was last Saturday morning they announced it. The original bout of Nico Montano versus Macy Chiasson almost didn't get to be a thing at all, because we found out last week that Nico Montano has sprained her ACL, a degree 3 sprain, they said, which is a weird term that I'm not quite familiar with, but whatever, because within an hour of them announcing Nico being injured and withdrawing from the fight, Dana had announced that Shayna Young of Invicta will be stepping up on short notice and taking the fight. So Macy's still in there. We are going to still get to see Macy fight. 5 days notice against Macy Chiasson is going to be an interesting fight, but the young lady, literally Miss Young from Invicta, stepping up. Hats off. I love seeing folks that are willing and able to take short notice fights like we got to see last week with James Krause. Hopefully we get another step up on short notice of that caliber. So definitely need to keep an eye on that. I talked about it Sunday on the What Did I Say show when I gave the recaps, but it bears mentioning again, I think. We had an absolute fucking travesty last weekend in terms of the officiate judging for the 247 card itself. For one, there was 2 different panels of judges, which generally doesn't happen, least of all on pay-per-view events. You generally have the same 3 judges doing the whole dozen or 15 whatever fights it is, so you get the same point of view, you get reliable judging, air quotes. We had 2 teams of judges that were tag teaming out variously for the matches on 247 down in Houston, and that was a little weird unto itself. And then this motherfucker, Joe Solis, who has had problems before with judging, messes up his first fight of the night that he's officiating over. Andre Ewell. Fucking clearly a bad decision. Good for Andre getting the W off that fight, but he didn't fucking win that fight. He goes on and he messes up the James Krause fight. James Krause won that fucking fight. 3rd round might have gone to Giles. That's all you can give him. Krause cleaned him out in 1 and held his own to keep him at bay in 2. But Joe Solis, again, fucks up that judging. Then we see at one point during a fight that he is judging, Joe Solis gets up out of his fucking chair to take a selfie during the match. He could wring his neck through the fucking television. So, in what I'm presuming to be a good faith gesture to try and eliminate situations like that from becoming as impactful in the fights as we saw that be in last week's UFC 247. We have officially gotten the announcement that May 9th, the Invicta Phoenix Rising event will officially be the first MMA platform to go full open scoring. The judges' scores will be made completely public. Everyone, including the fighters and the commentators in the arena, will know the judges' scores the second the round ends and they turn them in immediately. So, hopefully, fingers fucking crossed, this is a step in the right direction to start getting some of these incompetent morons out of these officiating positions, because the judges are assigned by the State Athletic Commission, and none of the organizations, UFC, ONE, Bellator, any of them, have any say whatsoever over who the judges in these events are. And some of these idiots are legitimately ruining people's fucking careers and costing them money, legitimate money, based on uneducated guesswork, which is exactly what a lot of it is. If you look at all of the cards, all the judges' scorecards from last weekend are public knowledge. They've all been released now. Just look at the way that some of those fights were scored and watch those fights, and it makes your head spin like The Exorcist. It just doesn't make any logical fucking sense. So hopefully, with Invicta leading the charge here, with open scoring finally making its way into a larger organization in MMA, hopefully we get a little more accountability held by these state athletic commissions, and hopefully Texas realizes how fucking bad Houston got it for UFC 247, because there's more bad news about 247. But we'll get to that again in just a minute. There's a little bit more I want to get to. We don't have all that much news and events for today.
To add to that,
right ahead.
of the actual open scoring, state of Kansas has now opened it to up to any MMA pro organization, amateur, to where they have the option to say, yes, we want open scoring. So that means if the UFC goes to Kansas, Bellator, whoever, they have the option of open scoring now. So those places will get it in Kansas now as well. So that's a huge step in the right direction, because then those bigger companies are going to get a lay waste to people, whether they like it or not. You scored fucked up, everybody gets to know who you are because you're a dickhead.
I heard a good
Absolutely.
point by Misha. I think it was Misha Tate that said it on the radio with Jim Norton and whatchamacallit, I can't think of his name right now. That moment, like when you're waiting to hear who won, John Jones or Dominic Reyes, like that's a big, like, suspenseful moment that they may like. Like that was like the most suspenseful part of that fight, aside from the fight.
Right.
Like, who won this? Who won this? And taking that away might be. Now, in a close fight, it's probably always going to be 2-2 going in the fifth round anyway, so you're still going to have a little bit of suspense.
Right.
You're still going to need
Well,
that card, but it's something to think about.
The counterpoint to her saying that, though, is how many other fucking sports do we watch that you don't know the score of?
Right.
How many? Can you name one? No. Because everybody knows what the score on every sport is, whether it's baseball, football, soccer, or football for you guys, the rest of the world, or rugby, or fucking cricket, whatever the goddamn sport is, you know what the score is.
I don't understand curling.
I mean,
Yeah,
you got to
but
know
you'll
what a
still know
crumpet
what the-
is to understand cricket, though. So,
Yeah, but I'm saying you'll still know what the score is because it's going to be posted on there,
Right.
and it's live and up to date. Same concept. Is that going to change the suspenseful aspect at the end of the fight? Maybe, but it's not going to take away the suspense of what's going to happen this next round, because this motherfucker knows he's down around.
right. Well, and I think a lot of that's going to come down to how they do open scoring as well, too. Because a lot of boxing organizations, not all of them, obviously, but a lot of boxing organizations have open scoring up until the final round. If it goes to a decision, the final round is left for the judges, because in a lot of situations, if a boxing match goes 12 rounds, that last fight, or that last round rather, could make or break it. So a lot of the times, like, or even the last two, like you get 1 through 10 open score, 11 and 12, you got to fucking earn it. You got to fucking work for it. So I think even if they do it a little bit differently, or they don't do full open scoring, there's still ways to keep it, because I agree that in a championship situation like this, when you go to a judge's decision, not knowing how the 5th round was scored in a close fight could, build the anticipation for everybody involved. I agree completely.
And you know what? Let's go this route. Let's say you're in a 3-round fight. You're only going to know fucking, let's say, just the first round of the open sport. Next 2, not.
Right.
Championship fight, you'll know the first 3. Last 2,
Yeah,
keep them in the dark.
Keep them hidden. Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's fine, but it's a compromise to where the fighters at least have an idea of what's
You
going
know where you
on,
stand. Yeah.
as well as everybody who's watching. Because look, there's times when I'm looking at these fucking fights and they're super close, and I want to know, if
How do
this
the
goes
judges
to a
see this?
decision, what
Yeah.
is this cocksucker going to do? Because there's been so many in the past just in the last year alone that we've seen that have been so fucked up miserably. Between New York, Texas, we've even seen a couple in Vegas, and they're
Yep.
usually better of the judges, but it happens. It's even there, but for the most part, like, we've seen most shit fucked up in New York and now Texas. There was 4 fights on this card that were fucked up with scoring,
Yep.
at least.
Yeah, four arguably bad decisions from even a remotely casual point of view.
Yeah, I think an open scoring system is a fucking fantastic idea. Let everybody know. And you know what? You don't. I'm perfectly all right with them knowing every fucking round. They don't have to have it closed at any point. Fuck them. Let them have it open. You're not going to know how they score the last round anyways until the fucking thing is read. But you'll know what 1 and 2 are, or what 1 through 4 are.
Yeah. Oh.
I mean, it can make a difference in the way the fighters actually prep themselves. It can make a difference in the way they come out in the next rounds, how they change their game plans. I think it'll make for a more exciting fight for the fan, and it'll push the fighters farther because they'll know.
Well,
and
I think it'll help educate the fans as well, because we'll see the scores immediately after the round, so it'll be easier for the average person watching to associate, okay, well, he was doing more that round, and they gave the round to him for it, so that's how a guy has got to do it to earn that round.
Yep, and the other big thing for me is you'll see a lot of corner guys tell them, you won those 2 rounds, and we know it definitively. So what they'll do, they'll coast the 3rd round. No.
Yeah.
That motherfucker's going to know on the other side of the house, yeah, I'm behind. I have to pick it up. That guy can't coast anymore because he's going to have to do something fucking drastic to stop the onslaught that's about to come on. So I think it's going to force the action, which is, to be honest, a good thing, because there's too many times that we see a fighter coast, which is the one and only time I'm ever going to agree with Dana White on this. And I've only seen it on the Contender Series, but I didn't want to try to finish it because I knew I was ahead. That's going to stop a lot of that.
That point fighting mentality coming into combat sports isn't the same thing. If you want a point fight, stay in the point fighting world. You want to fight, come to combat sports. And I think that'll help alleviate a lot of that issue.
Which would be a fucking fantastic thing. And now I'm going to go wash my mouth out with soap now that I just said that.
I know it always feels dirty when that happens, right?
It does. God damn it.
Well, I'll give you something to help make you feel a little bit better here. After we did get the announcement about Invicta going to the open scoring system, to being the first organization to bring that, we got an even better and even more little delicious morsel of news to follow that up. Now, there is a caveat to it here. There is a caveat to the good news that we got here. This good news comes at the cost of some extremely somber and saddening news. So I'm going to go with that first, because anyone who hasn't already watched the Joe Rogan episode that was shot last week with Rafael Lovato Jr., seriously, when this episode is over, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it. I'm not bullshitting. I'm not joking. This isn't funny. This isn't a haha thing. This is very, very serious. When this episode is over, go watch that episode of JRE with Rafael Lovato Jr., because he breaks to the world that he has been diagnosed with a very serious brain disease that very may well kill him within the year. So he has had to relinquish the Bellator belt that he just earned in an extremely hard-fought battle. So, bad news first. We wish him absolutely all the best. He is a fucking fighter. He is looking to see how he can go through it, but he is also a realist, and it does not look good. So, our thoughts obviously go to Rafael Lovato Jr. and his family in finding that out. That news, however, did give us an interesting piece as a fan to look forward to, because the bad part about him stepping out is that now someone has to take that position. The belt always has to keep moving. So in order to fill that, they're not going to have some bullshit interim match. They're not going to, give him a ceremonious thing and let him hang on to it. He understands it. He relinquished the belt, so they put it right back into rotation. And we found out because of that, May 9th, the 185-pound belt will be back up for grabs at Bellator 243 between Gegard Mousasi and Douglas Lima, the 170-pound champion. Douglas is going for his champ status over in Bellator, and he's not getting an easy fight in Gegard Mousasi. So as horrible of a way as it is to fall into a situation like this, we did end up with something good for the organization and something good for the fans to see, and I guarantee you there's going to be some sort of a tribute to Rafael at that event itself. So, bit of melancholy news, but both pieces of that story I feel are very important.
Yeah, that was a bummer when I heard that and saw that. That's not the way you want to see a champ go and relinquish
not
it.
at all.
You want to see them go out on their own merit, or have the belt taken from them because they were bested.
Yeah.
That's the only way you want to see a champ go down. That's definitely not the way, and nothing but fucking good thoughts and vibes his way, because that's some gnarly shit.
Yeah, Rafael's a badass and a great human being. He does a lot, and I mean a lot, of charity work. And I know that it gets kind of made light of because these days a lot of the UFC fighters and a lot of the more popular combat sports folks do a lot of charity work. But I mean, in specific, people like Justin Wren, people like Rafael Lovato Jr., they go above and beyond, and they make their lives about doing as much for others as they do for themselves. And so when you hear things like this, it just, you can't help but feel for them, man. It sucks. So, moving on from that, we do have some little bit lighter news, some more interesting fight announcements to talk about here real quick. This one has not been officiated. It's been stated by the UFC. It's also been stated by journalists. They're just waiting for management finalization. I'm using air quotes for anyone that's listening to this. Management finalization on the part of both of the opponents here. So essentially it's set, but it's not quite set yet. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. April 25th, again, in the Lincoln, Nebraska card that they are building up, Muslim Salikov will return to the octagon to face the hybrid Nico Price. That is going to be a fucking spectacular matchup of two very unorthodox gentlemen who will get the fuck after it. Now, the other interesting announcement here comes off of a interesting and equally disappointing turn from the last time we were supposed to see her. She's getting right back in there. They didn't make her wait too damn long, but they are still making her wait a little bit. Talking all the way out to May 2nd, the fight night in Oklahoma City that they are putting together. Claudia Gadelha is getting to get back into the octagon, this time against Marina Rodriguez. So Marina definitely had a rough go of things the last time we saw her in the octagon, but she has had some flashes. And now that Claudia has kind of essentially been iced on the last fight, now we get to see how the shakeup in the camps will really, treat her when we finally get to see her put some work back in.
I wonder how angry she is because of the way that one fucking
Fell the fuck out.
Fucking somebody missed weight, and athletic commission said, nope, you guys are too far apart on weight. We're not going to allow it. She would have fought her, too. She wouldn't have given a fuck.
She would have. Damn right she would have.
I'm pretty sure there's a little pent-up aggression there that might go a long way in this coming fight.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. And then now they've iced her essentially all the way back until May 2nd. And, it's not that far away, but still, that's a whole full camp after she just did a camp and then didn't get to use it for a fight. So,
yeah, angry as fuck.
Yeah, a little pent-up aggression, I believe, will be in store. So the next thing I've got here is an interesting trio. And it was, ironically, not announced at the same time. They trickle-released these announcements here, and I don't understand why. The first one we found out after the ass whooping he took last weekend. Juan Adams has officially been released from the UFC. They are done. Tafa not only put him to fucking bed, but he put him out of a fucking job too. So, hats off to that fucking gentleman. The other part of that was we found out after that the winner of one of the most recent Ultimate Fighters, Brad Katona, the Canadian in Ireland training at SBG, has officially been cut with only 2 losses on his pro career out of 6 fights in the UFC. It's a little interesting to try and figure out where the fuck the justification for that one came from. But then the 3-piece that came with that really kind of put a little sting on the end of the notification for that series. For the 3rd time in his career now, Ben Saunders has been released from the UFC. They cut Killa B for the 3rd time. I mean, that one's a little weird because Ben Saunders originally signed with the UFC in 2006. Fought with him for a couple years, got released, went and fought in Bellator for a couple years, kicked ass in Bellator, came back to the UFC for a year on a 2-fight contract, denied the re-up that they offered him, took another 2 years off, then came back to the UFC for the latest 6-fight streak. 4 of those he has lost. So it's been a weird run, but hopefully we see him end up somewhere good, because I know he's still in the combat jiu-jitsu and the submission grappling world very much so. So it's not like he's disappearing. We're just not going to see him in the UFC once a year anymore.
To be honest, I'm perfectly all right with that, because as far as his MMA has gone over the last couple of years, you can tell the decline in it. His grappling, though, is still fucking on point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to be honest, that's where he's always been best. I mean, he's the only person to ever pull off a fucking umakwata in an MMA fight in the UFC, which is fucking fantastic. That's a tough thing to pull off, even in a combat jiu-jitsu match.
Yeah, world-class grappler and BJJ player for sure, but maybe not the greatest of MMA fighters overall. So
he had some flashes where he looked like he could do some great
absolutely,
things. But then,
some highlights for sure.
But I think he just was in it at the wrong time in his career, because he was already getting a little old when he initially came to the UFC. That was part of the issue, because he was in his late 20s, I think, when he signed in the UFC. I mean, we're mid-30s, fucking pushing 40 now, isn't he? Like,
almost, 39, I believe.
Yeah.
He's almost there. And in combat sports years, it's very similar to football years. Like, you might go in at 21, but you're not going to be playing when you're 45. Like,
no,
you get a 5 to 10 year
fucking
window for the most part, and you've got to fucking take advantage of it. So
there's very few people that make it past the 40 mark. And I mean, there's only one person that's made it past 50 that I can think of, and do it with actual grace and doing it well done. And that's the natural, Randy Couture.
The Natch, yeah.
Other than that, there's nobody else who was able to do it at that high of a level past that age. Look, there's some of those guys that are in the smaller divisions that you see shit like fucking Tito still fighting. But those ones we're not going to touch on, because I don't feel like dealing with that train wreck. But
right,
yeah, this is definitely it's a young man's game. It really is.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's the fight world is not meant for longevity. It's one of those things that you get in, you make your mark, you make your money, you get out, and you set yourself up with a career for the rest of your life, because you can't fight forever. There's no pension and retirement plan from the fucking UFC.
No, you have to have something ready and be thinking ahead.
Yep. So, a couple more things to run down real quick here. The next one that's going to bring us to is an interesting fight announcement. UFC 250 set for May 9th. We have just had added Bech Kohea versus Pani Kianzad. So Pani is one of the ladies from one of the most recent seasons of The Ultimate Fighter as well. Maybe not as big of a name, I would say, as Brad Katona kind of grew into, because we've seen Pani really go hot and cold, hit and miss, even straight in, even from the Ultimate Fighter house to the UFC. She's really been inconsistent. So, but then again, the person that she's fighting against kind of defines inconsistent female fighter for the UFC. So, who knows? That's an interesting matchup, I think, if nothing else. Next thing I want to get to real quick ties back into kind of what we talked about earlier. Some of the bullshit that happened in Texas, that just examples of them dropping the fucking ball here. The medical suspensions after the fights were announced yesterday. The thing about these medical suspensions is that they don't have to give their justifications. These are medical suspensions that are handed down by the state athletic commissions after the fights are over and the fighters have received their medical treatment. That being said, John Jones and Dominic Reyes, who went 5 hard fucking rounds at light heavyweight, both went home with stitches, black eyes, limping, definitely in a 5-round battle of a fight, are both cleared to fight again as of next Thursday, February 18th. Or next Wednesday, rather, February 18th. Valentina Shevchenko, who fought for 2.5 rounds, knocked her opponent out and did not get a single significant strike landed anywhere on her in that time, is medically suspended for 6 months. This is where I need that Gizzard Stew judgmental gif. What the fuck kind of rationale can you come up with to have that make any kind of fucking sense?
Yeah, that's sexist.
Right?
To be honest, that's the only thing I can attribute that to. Is to say, oh, she's a woman, she needs more time off. No. She took less damage than both of those men. She could have fought that fight 7 times over and still took less damage than those two.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Fuck, then either one of them, she could have taken less damage. But, you know.
At the end of her fight, she was more ready to fight John Jones than John Jones would be ready to fight her.
No shit. That's for damn
Oh.
sure. Fucking just Texas really dropped the ball, to say the least. So last couple things I want to go over real quick here before we jump into it. We had a very, I don't want to say unexpected, but at this time we're getting a little desensitized to it, really. We had more news coming out of Hawaii about BJ Penn, and spoiler alert, it's not fucking good news. BJ has been on a hell of a fucking downward spiral since he's been released from the UFC. This being just the latest head-shaking, face-palming fucking edition of it. There was a report last week of a black Tacoma pickup truck with license plates matching BJ Penn's speeding and swerving across both lanes of traffic down the highway in his hometown until it flipped in front of a fucking mini mall and had to have rescue teams come and pull the unconscious driver, or semi-conscious driver rather, out of the vehicle because he could not exit of his own free will. And due to some strange laws in Hawaii regarding vehicle crashes, they could not give him any sort of analyzation at the scene of the accident. So they went with him to the hospital and requested a blood draw. And we have found out that due to that blood draw taken at the hospital, BJ Penn is now under investigation for DUI. He just fucking can't keep it together, man. And I don't get, I get that he's got to be a little bored, but get a fucking puppy. Start building birdhouses. Something. Get a fucking hobby, dude. You've got too much free time right now, and it's doing you bad.
I propose a vote here that from now on, when we talk about BJ Penn, we change his name to Can't Get Right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
We'll go.
Motion passes.
That's 2-1. Guess that's 2-1. Have you guys watched the Aaron Hernandez thing?
No.
I
No,
refuse
gotta
to.
watch that. Yeah, they talk a lot about CTE and how it's really bad for your judgment and stuff like that, and how athletes will start going down these spirals that have been traumatized in the head with blows and stuff, and that I feel bad for him. I do, because everybody that ever talks about him says that he's actually like the nicest guy.
It's been put into the proceeding notes in the proceedings here.
Yeah.
And believe me, I understand the CTE thing and that being a possibility of what's causing all of it. However, there's plenty of treatment you can get to help get that shit on the right track. Or, dude, just stay fucking home, man.
Jeez, that's what I said. Start building fucking birdhouses in your backyard. Get a fucking puppy, man. Something. Stop going out and getting in trouble.
Here's my thing with that, though, is like, where's the NFL and the UFC when these fighters need them? Like that, like.
Oh, I'm sure they've got a wonderful memorial thing prepared for when BJ finally goes, about how much they loved him and how much he meant to the UFC. But they're not going to do shit while he's alive and needs the help.
Same concept with the NFL. Unless you're working for them, don't mean shit.
Yeah, they'll have a great tribute plan for you when you finally fucking go, but they're not
There's
going to
a
do shit to
reason
help
why
an
they
active fucking
cut him.
person. Yeah. It's the sad way that the fucking world is working these days, some fucking how. So, two more quick things to run down here, and then we will jump into it. The first one, very, very interesting to see how it's going to shake out the rest of the summer. We found out this week that Manny Pacquiao has officially signed with Conor McGregor's management team. This following the tweet out of the potential Manny Pacquiao versus Conor McGregor boxing promotion poster that Manny tweeted out after Conor beat Cowboy at the UFC 246. We might have some interesting matches coming up for the summer here, because Conor McGregor's promotion likes money. Whether he's fighting Conor or not, they're not going to sign him to put him on a fucking shelf. They're going to be like, cool, Manny, you're on paper, so we've got a match for you here and here and here. We'll have 4 before the end of next year. You ready? Let's go. Into camp. I don't think they're going to sign Manny to put him on a fucking shelf and let him get dust on his goddamn gloves.
No, because he took his time off that he wanted to go play politics.
That's right.
So he's probably ready for that comeback again. And not to mention, he was on a tear his last couple fights, too. He's putting people away that they didn't think he had a chance against. Which, that says something. He's definitely not down and out yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot to be interested about to see how that shakes loose. And then the last thing I want to go over here real quick before we jump into it, after Saturday night's UFC, kind of during, depending on how fights actually end up playing out and events get shifted around, BKFC 10 this weekend. We unfortunately do not get to see Joe Diesel Riggs, but we do still get to see Hector fucking Lombard looking like an absolute fucking beefcake right now, stacked like a snack ready to attack. He is coming through, and I genuinely feel bad for the gentleman who has stepped in on short notice to face him, because Hector is looking fucking swole right now, and that dude hit hard when he was training for MMA. Now that he doesn't have to worry about kicks or takedowns or submissions, them some scary hands they have coming at you with angry intent behind them, man. So if you're looking for some raw, concentrated, pure, boiled down violence, it's a short card this weekend. As of right now, there's only 5 fights on the main card, but holy shit, they're 2-minute rounds, and those fights do not fucking take long, even when they go to the judges. So definitely going to be something you're going to want to keep your eyes on this weekend.
That is going to be fucking excellent. I'm ready to see what happens with Hector Lombard going from one promotion, retiring, another promotion, retiring, and now coming to something that's he can just do what he's fucking good at, which is throw hands.
Just
He doesn't have to worry about takedowns or any of that shit. Dude, this is a. I want to bust out into the Little Mermaid here and start singing a whole new world, because that's about what's about to happen here. I'm telling you, you guys are in for a treat. Watch it.
It's going to be interesting for damn sure. And that's the nice thing about BKFC is that as they're growing, not every UFC or Bellator guy that gets cut loose is finding their way over there, but a lot of the predominant big fucking hard power strikers have started to find their way over there. Now we got Thiago Santos over there coming over now too. We got Hector debuting this weekend. There's a lot of big fucking strikers coming over to BKFC to keep things real fucking interesting over there.
Oh.
So, that being said, that's going to bring us into the meat and potatoes, as it were. Uh-oh, he's giving me
I
the
forgot
finger.
one other thing we missed
Uh-oh.
that is newsworthy, in my opinion. Nick Newell has another fight coming up
That's right.
on Bellator 241. And I want to say that's in May, I think, if I remember correctly. But Nick Newell, as you don't know who he is, all half-arm himself, putting people to sleep over there in Bellator, sleeping them, choking them piss out of them.
Beating the
It's
shit out of
gonna be good.
competition single-handedly.
Somebody, yeah, literally and figuratively, single-handedly. Not to mention, I just want to see him do nothing but well, because it pisses
love
me
it.
off so much that Dana White wouldn't give him the shot.
Yeah, for whatever
But-
reason, Dana didn't have the balls to give him the shot, and Scott Coker did not fucking hesitate. I love seeing that fucking dude do well. I've been a fan of his for a good fucking minute now, and I love seeing him shine despite Dana.
Yeah, the dude has a handicap, and for those of you who are just listening to the audio, there are air quotes going on here. Dude, he's not handicapped, he's handy-capable, because that
Fuck
motherfucker
yeah.
is more than capable of fucking people up.
Yeah, one arm and all, he still holds victory over, I think it's a dozen now of the UFC's top tops. So,
Oh yeah, go fucking watch his war with Justin Gaethje before they were in fucking their perspective
World Series of
organizations.
Fightings, yeah.
Yeah, dude,
Those fucking dudes went after it.
fucking amazing. Remember, people, Justin Gaethje is the guy who just knocked the piss out of Cerrone in like fucking couple minutes versus where Connor did it in 40 seconds, but still, nonetheless, same fucking guy. I'm saying he's a bad motherfucker, and if a one-armed man can hang with him, I'm telling you, that one-armed man's doing way big things, and it's only going to get better.
But with the Nick Newell news now out of the way, that will bring us into the meat and potatoes of this particular episode here. The reason for the season, as it were, this weekend's upcoming UFC Fight Night Rio Rancho, New Mexico's Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz card. This one, I will say, is a little bit interesting, aside from the weirdness with the Nico Montano-Macy Chazon fight getting swapped around. The thing that strikes me the most about this particular card is that this is a fight night the week after a pay-per-view. There's one fight on this card that's just a total meh fluff. Doesn't fucking make or break, doesn't have any impact. Either way, I don't know what to even say about it. There's a couple of maybe not the most interesting, but still good fights on here. But then there are quite a few just absolute saliva-inducing, Mr. Burns, excellent worthy fucking matches that we have got. So let's jump right into them here. So I want to start on the prelims with one half of potential history-making greatness of this weekend's card. The first that I want to talk about, Mark De La Rosa versus Julian Piava. Mark De La Rosa, for the uninitiated, is one half of what is commonly referred to as the BJJ couple, the Jits couple in the UFC. They are out to make history this weekend. Mark and his wife, Montana, both Gesundheit, jiu-jitsu black belts, great practitioners under their own, are now trying to be the first husband and wife couple to ever compete and win on the same card in a major fight promotion. I think there's a goddamn good chance of it. So, obviously, I think Mr. Piava making his debut against Mark De La Rosa is going to be a hell of a challenge because Mark really is a smaller, fucking wiry, and fast-moving jiu-jitsu guy with real good fucking striking and good grappling. Not the easiest dude to make your fucking debut against. So, obviously, I'm giving that one to Mark because I'm hoping to see history get fucking made here. I want to see the jiu-jitsu couple set the fucking books on fire.
Dude, I'm 100% behind you on that one. The De La Rosa, just being on the same card is fucking fantastic. I'm still a little upset that they didn't do the fights back to back because I think that would have been awesome. However, you did bring up a good point prior to us knowing that they might be cornering each other, which that's cool in its own right. I'm just wondering how that plays out because they probably should be warming up for their fights, but I guess
that's why I was saying that earlier, because if you look, there's one fight before, but that's one of the ones. So Mark's fighting at the very top of the card for the most part, and then Montana fights in the middle of the main card. So even if we get, quick knockout after quick knockout, we should still have an hour and a half, maybe even up to 2 hours between the two fights, which should be more than enough time for her to come corner him and then turn around, get his medical clearing if he needs it and what have you. Still have enough time for her to go back and get warmed up before she has to get ready for her fight too.
Now, what I wonder is, do they wrap her beforehand or do they wrap her after his fight?
That's a good question because I don't know.
Because hand wrapping, to do it right, takes a while.
Well, and it has to be certified and monitored. That's why I was telling somebody about that last weekend. That's why you see signatures on the underside of the tape when they wrap the gloves with red or blue, whichever the case may be for whoever the fighter. The reason you see the signature there is because the wherever they are, that state athletic commission's representative has to witness their hands being wrapped start to finish and then sign off on the tape physically to verify that it has been sanctioned by the state.
Make sure they're not adding lead to their
make sure there's not sliding anything in or trimming anything off or trying to make any adjustments or anything, no questions. And I don't know that they could actually wrap her hands and then have her walking back and forth around without a representative following her. I think they're probably going to have to leave her open-fingered for cornering.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
That's to say, did they think about that ahead of time, or when they get there, they said, "Oh yeah, sure, you can corner her," and then they pull some shit of no. You can't, because I've seen them do shit like that in the past with people. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But
yeah, absolutely.
I'm 100% with you on this one. I hope De La Rosa wins and we get a De La Rosa win here. Talk about we'll just call them the power couple of MMA at that point if that happens.
Fuck yeah, we will. We won't have a choice. There's no competition.
Yeah. Because it's just fucking going to be Paige Van Zandt and her husband.
Yeah, no, Mr. Van Zandt ain't doing shit over there. And I was crunching on a bunch of fucking goofballs who were trying to say that he should have been the one fighting for the fucking belt that Lovato was evacuating on Instagram over the week. Yeah. I was like, let's slow that cart all the way down right fucking now. No.
Yeah, that motherfucker gonna win.
Yeah. So, from there, that brings us to a very, very interesting and kind of overlooked, for the most part, light heavyweight fight on this card as well, because both these gentlemen are still relative prospects, but last time we saw both of these guys out, it was fucking big swings and crazy fucking shots. Devin Clark versus Daquan Townsend. This is going to be a matchup of two big dudes with a lot of power who don't necessarily understand the concept of conserving your energy to go 3 rounds. These are two dudes who are both known for just putting the pedal to the fucking floor and holding it till the motor blows. Clark is so fucking fast with his grappling and his takedowns, but Daquan Townsend is so fucking crisp with his striking, and he uses his range so fucking well. I don't even want to fucking say it, but I'm gonna anyway. Very John Jones-esque in the way that he uses his distance to control your ability to get closer to him instead of just using it as a lengthy weapon. He uses it almost defensively on the back foot to keep you where he wants you as well. I think Devin Clark is a great fucking prospect, and he's definitely going to get a lot better with time and become a real problem for that division, but I just can't see Daquan Townsend not connecting with his fucking chin, because Clark is still a little bit of a predictable wrestler. He's got a little bit of the funky one in him, and that you can see that fucking lean down when he shoots every fucking time, and Daquan's got a fucking real mean low hook that would just, I think, pair so fucking beautifully with that lean down shot taken. I think Daquan puts him to sleep.
And I think people have been underestimating Daquan since he's come in. He's got some fucking firecracker potential going.
But he gassed hard in his first fight, though. So, I mean, I kind of get it, because he faded real hard at the end in his first fight. But that was
also his first fight.
Yeah, exactly.
That bright lights, the adrenaline dump.
The whole
Look,
thing, yeah.
That whole I made it to the bigs, that has a huge effect on a lot of fighters, because you can do well in the fucking barroom fucking cage matches because they're small little events, but when you get under those big hot white lights, everybody's eyes are on you. You know you're being broadcasted to the world. You can feel good walking in there. You might look cool as a cucumber while you're fucking getting greased up at the checkpoint. But you step in there and that switch turns on you and oh fuck, it hits him. I think that might be part of it. The other part of it is he may not have been fully ready. As in he wasn't embracing the suck and getting out there and doing his cardio. That very well could be part of it. However, we'll see. I think he's got a lot more potential than people are giving him credit for. I have to give him a pass on the first fight because it's your first fight in the bigs. It's like going from fucking AAA ball to fucking ML to Major League Baseball. You're gonna look like shit your first game, unless you're fucking just some ungodly, overly capable person who's been looked over 1,000 times. I gotta give him a pass, but he's gonna go out there, do work, and hopefully, if we're lucky, he'll hit Devin Clark hard enough to knock that fucking flat top off of his head.
Shed them antlers off his fucking weird chest tattoo.
Yeah, what the fuck is that shit, dude?
Oh, no,
You know, the first time I looked at it, I thought spider. And I was like, wait a minute, no, those are antlers. Then I went, no, maybe it's a really fucked up drawing of the predator. I don't know. Bad tattoo choices, dude.
Yeah.
Bad tattoo.
First time I saw it was in a clip of him fucking grappling in a gym, and he had the other guy and him were leaned in with fucking overhooks, so you couldn't see the antlers part. It just looked like he had a big fucking cool looking skull in his chest, and I was like, oh, cool, I get it. I got a fucking skull tattooed on my arm. I'm a fucking skull kind of dude. I get it, cool. And then he stood up and like turned to the camera, and you could see it. And I was like, oh no, why would you do that?
I'm like, with someone like that, where we know damn well it's antlers at this point. Would you rather be hunting? Is that what's going on, or is it more something along the lines of you want to go out and maybe track a moose? Maybe you want to tag it for the DNR so they can track its movement. Maybe that's what you're into. It seems like an unfitting tattoo. Maybe it's because he hasn't done well enough in the UFC at this point. In fact, what I really want to know is he's 1-3 in the UFC so far. How is he still fucking here as a prospect?
It's a good question.
I don't know. Usually at that point when you're a prospect, 2 strikes and you're out. It doesn't work that way. I mean, maybe they're just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's one of those cocksuckers that Dana White, just for some odd reason, loves.
Right. Well, I mean,
Maybe
he is a light. They are light heavyweights too.
Yeah.
They're trying to stack the house on that side just in case John decides that he is going to go to heavyweight and they can actually start putting on more than fucking 2 or 3 big fights a year.
What are they going to use Devin Clark for then? Is he going to be the gatekeeper for the prospects?
There's always got to be cannon fodder.
Yeah, I guess they need to keep a couple of fucking soup cans on the shelf.
There's always got to be a few around.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens. But I say without a doubt, Thompson takes this one.
I think I've seen both these guys fight. I don't know them too well, so just to be the heel, I'm picking Devin Clark, and that's all I got to say.
Okay.
So moving on from there, that will bring us on to probably my personal favorite fight on this card, and one that I think absolutely could have either been the premier prelim fight for the highlight there, or swapped out with the one fluff fight that we still ended up with on the main card here. That being Scott Holtzman versus Jim Miller. Look, if you don't know who Jim Miller is at this point in time, stop watching this right now and go look him up. I will give up that view. Go learn about Jim Miller right now. He is in the UFC Hall of Fame for his fight versus Clay Guida, which was a bar-setting demonstration of badassery, and he is still here kicking ass and taking names years later, still doing fucking solid work, and now on a 2-fight win streak, coming in trying to make it 3. Now, I'm a realist, so I don't honestly know if we're going to see Jim make a run at the title. But at this fucking point, I think it's about time they give him some good fucking fights if that's not where they're going to fucking aim him. And I think this fight against Scott Holtzman is going to be entertaining as shit. This isn't an easy fight where Jim's just going to walk through him. And on the other side of it, this isn't one of those situations where Scott is just going to strike his way through Jim because Jim is a jiu-jitsu and a grappler guy for the most part. This is one of those fights that it's going to be a good back and forth, but I think in the end, it's going to come down to which one of these two gentlemen has the more well-rounded tool set. And I think you can't help but tip your hat to Jim Miller and that side of it here. I don't know that we are going to see a big knockout because Jim's traditionally not a big knockout guy, but he has been on a hell of a fucking submission kick lately. So I wouldn't be too surprised if we see a nice submission come out of Jim. But either way, I think we're going to see Mr. Miller getting his fucking hand raised at the end of this match.
I'm inclined to agree with that right now. And Jim, as I was looking earlier, 3 of his last 4 he's won. He put Clay Guida to sleep in his last fight, and that was the same fight where they inducted both of them into the Hall of Fame for their previous fight. And he put him to sleep inside of the first. Like, something I didn't see coming. I thought we were going to get another fucking war between those two. Jim Miller, though, fucking excellent grappler. And don't get me wrong, he's been in some fucking wars, so he's got some road mileage on him. But he's always been rock steady. Scott Holtzman, nothing to shake a stick at either. Still young, and I say young in the sense of compared to how many fights Miller has had, he's fucking in his infancy. But Holtzman's got a lot of fucking potential to him as well. So it's going to be a fucking interesting to see how Jim Miller uses all of his fucking toolbox to deal with the striking of how Holtzman comes forward. Do I think Holtzman's going to get anywhere near winning this fight? He might, because he's got that puncher's chance, but I think that Jim Miller gets this done, and it's probably going to end up being a submission because that seems to be his fucking go-to lately, and where he's been finishing a lot of fights. I mean, the dude he's on a whole nother level for being, he's that old guy right now. As Jim Miller is 39, pushing 40 or 41 or something like that, if I remember correctly. But he's I don't know. Fuck, he's not even that old yet. God damn. I just looked. He's 36. So he's still in that age category where, yeah, he's still got some fight in him. And he's basically fought a who's who of the fucking MMA world at this point in his career because he's been around since the mid 2000s in the UFC. So he's been in the UFC, I want to say like 15 years at this point. And he's been a long mainstay staple. He's had some time off from injuries before, but never anything where he's been cut or anything like that because he constantly wins fights. He puts on fucking great wars. And I think just his time inside the cage is going to win him this fight. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I agree that the experience is probably going to be what wins it um for the hell Jim Miller. So Jim Miller, yeah, he's a fan favorite. I like Jim Miller a lot. Hopefully he could stay in the win column. Scott Holtzman, the only two fights that he's fought of like people that have names, he's lost to. I see Nick Lentz and Josh Emmett are like the two biggest names he's fought.
Yeah.
He lost to both of them. His last win was Dong Hun Ma. I don't even know who that is.
Dong Hyun
And
Ma.
then he won, yeah, Alan.
That was, I think that was Dong Hyun Ma's first fight in the UFC too, if I remember correctly.
I believe it was his UFC debut. I think you're correct.
It was a doctor stoppage. It doesn't say why. I see that he's got a KO to elbows. But yeah, I'm gonna have to take Jim Miller on this one. Also, because I'm rooting for Jim Miller. I like seeing the older guys in the fight game do good and teach some younger guys some stuff. So yeah.
Hell yeah.
And Jim Miller's still active in the grappling world too, which is fucking fantastic.
Fuck
too,
yeah. So, now that will bring us to the next one I want to talk about on the prelims here. Like I said, there's a bunch of great fucking fights. We still have two more fights to talk about just on the fucking prelims here. So the next one I want to talk about real quick, it almost pains me to even talk about this one because a lot of newer fans to UFC might not understand the full history of how some of the personalities of some of these fighters really come across and really start to develop their own characters, not entirely unlike WWE style characters, with this being more natural as opposed to someone writing someone's character for them and people playing the heel like Colby Covington is now starting to do. In the earlier days, you had this thing called personality. People would like you because of who you were and how you carried yourself. I know that that's kind of a old-timey thing, but back in the day, when you wanted to be called the king of cringe, you had to fucking earn it by doing cringy shit and not just saying stupid things on the internet and giving yourself dumb fucking nicknames and trying to fight girls. You had to earn it. And the original king of cringe was John, air quotes, the magician Dodson with his original magic tricks before Cringe Hudo stole it and brought the whole fucking hat up on the stage to be fucking hokey about it. The original Magic King of Cringe was John fucking Dodson. So we've got John Dodson against Nathaniel Wood coming up this weekend. And I can't help but think Dodson is getting a chance for the UFC to try and rebuild his image, so to speak. Nathaniel Wood's making his debut. This is not, again, not a good fight to make your fucking debut against. Dodson, although he might not be your favorite guy, is a hell of a fucking fighter. And before all the bullshit with Cejudo and Mighty Mouse leaving and, you know, are the flyweights staying, are the flyweights going, before the real hubbub about the smaller guys started a year or two ago in the UFC, John Dodson was legitimately a top contender that you couldn't help but fucking look at anytime you started talking about the top of the divisions down there. I think this might be that chance that they're giving him now that Cejudo's bullshit is starting to get old enough to where he's fading out of fucking relevancy, fight or no fight. They're going to have to start building new faces down on the smaller side of the house if they're going to keep these fucking guys around Dana said he's keeping them all around. Now we're seeing the flyweight belt getting put up against with fucking, Mr. Olivi fighting for that. We don't know if he's actually going to defend the other belt or if it's going to end up getting stripped again as well, because he seems to want to play fucking social media more than fights. He's kind of like a boy Paige Van Zant in that sense. But, we'll see how it goes. But I think this is one of those situations where they're going to give John Dodson a fairly easy fight without it looking like they're tossing him a total soup can, so that they can kind of try and start to get some momentum around him, and they can really rally some of the bigger names down in the small guys division here.
This one I might have to disagree with. They're feeding him a fucking complete soup can. Period. Like, this isn't even a question of are you giving him a soup can or not. They're giving him a soup can. And I hate to say that about anybody who's prospect coming in on their first fight, but at this point, you're a soup can. And I'm probably one of the few guys that actually liked John Dodson because he was honest. He was his own person. It's not a made up moniker for him. That's his thing. The dude's himself. I can't be mad at somebody who's being himself. You look at shit like Crenshudo did. That shit that, if you look in his early portion of his UFC, he was not that way. That all changed once he got his hands on gold. So that's been really fucking recently. And now you keep seeing this calling out women fighting bullshit, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Dodson has always been the same guy. And every time you see him, he's smiling. For some odd fucking reason, I think he smiles more than Sam Alvey does, to be quite honest. And unfortunately, he's fought some real killers in his last couple of fights. And, I mean, Peter Yan, for a fucking example. Dude, that's a fucking murderer right there. And he got thrashed. And you know what? I can't fault Dodson for that. That's a tough motherfucker who nobody saw coming until he was already through him.
Yeah.
He was problems for the entire division. But Dodson's always been a mainstay. He's been a perennial top contender. I think they're throwing him a soup can just so that way they don't have to cut him. Now, the other part of that is they want to see maybe is he really diminished that much because he got just fucking completely thrashed by Yan. I'm just saying maybe that's what they think, and they're thinking maybe if he loses this fight, we can cut him. I don't know that they would cut him, though. Maybe they would just turn him into a gatekeeper of sorts. But it seems like a real step down in competition for him, which I'm not a fan of. If you want to put somebody out, let them fight at their level. Let him fight like the number 10 ranked guy right now, because I think he's still ranked in the top 15, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, 13
And yeah, at this point, yeah, give him the number 10 guy. But you want to put him out on a good fight. Don't put him out against the soup can. I'm just saying. I don't think the soup can gets it done. I really don't. Pretty sure Dodson's got this one in the bag without even thinking about it. However, we talk about diminishing returns a lot too, and I'm wondering if those last couple losses have fucking cost him any diminishing returns here. But we'll see come Saturday. But I have to lean towards Dodson purely on his time in service here and the way he's fought in the past. I know what he's capable of. We've seen it. He'd fought him for the title as well. It's not like the dude's never been there. He's been there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the younger, bigger fighter that's on an 8-fight winning streak right now. I'm going to go with Nathaniel Wood.
Do you know who his notable wins are against?
I don't know them guys. I just know it's him.
Everybody's entitled to an opinion. That's the wonderful thing about the world.
That's right. I'm not going to fault you.
Hey, stranger things have happened. I will put it that way.
Yeah, right?
Stranger fucking things have happened.
Them judges sucked so bad last week that I almost went 100 on my picks.
Oh, man. I'm telling you. So, that will bring us to the actual premier prelim fights on this particular card. One I am very fucking excited to see because I didn't realize until yesterday when I was making my note finalization here where they had put this fight. I knew it was on the card. I didn't know where they were putting it though. The return to the UFC of the Dirty Bird himself, Tim Means, coming back to take on Daniel Rodriguez. It's so nice to see the Dirty Bird back in the UFC. Tim Means is one of those staples that has been there since UFC really started to take off, and we really started to see that the upper echelon of guys start to make their way in. The guys that are really, experts in their field, but are not just experts in that field. They're well-rounded fighters as a whole. The Dirty Bird made his way into the UFC a good bit ago and is still here kicking ass and taking names, much like one Jim Miller as well. Guys who have been around, who have the fucking IQ to just beat the shit out of you unless you really, really have your fucking game plan on point. And unfortunately, I just don't see Mr. Rodriguez having a game plan put together tight enough to stop the Dirty Bird on the comeback trail. I think Tim Means take this one by violent elbow. I want to see an old school Dirty Bird fucking bow drop a dude against a fucking cage, and I'm hoping we get to see it this weekend.
I'm excited for this fight too. I'm just excited to see Tim Means back in there, period. Now, what I'm wondering is there going to be any ring rust? Look, ring rust is debatable. Some people will say it's a thing. Some people will say it's not. Me, I'm still up for debate on that because I've seen some guys come back after a long time off and look fantastic. But there's been a lot of them that I've seen that come back and they look like a half step behind because they haven't been in there at full speed in a long time. I'm wondering what's going to happen there. Do I think Tim Means can get it done? Fuck yeah. I know. I've seen what he can do. I've seen the hurt he's put on people. He is more than capable of just putting this away. On the other side of that, Daniel Rodriguez, for being a fucking up-and-comer, he's got a lot of talent behind him. It's going to be interesting to see what fucking happens here. But I still think Tim Means gets it done. I don't know that he'll finish it, though. As much as I want to see him finish it, I'm thinking the ring rust might play a factor in. It might end up going to decision for that fact. But, I've been known to be wrong before.
Well, Daniel Rodriguez certainly is talented, because when I go look him up on Wikipedia, the only thing I see is he's a musician, a tenor. I don't think he has a Wikipedia, guys. So he's the unknown. It's hard to fight the unknown. I'm going to pick Daniel Rodriguez.
Interesting. You gotta give the new guys a chance sometimes, So, with that glorious pick, that will bring us to the meat and potatoes of this meat and potatoes section of the show here, the main card of the evening. Now, like I mentioned briefly earlier, this is one of those rare times where we actually do have just the tiniest bit of fluff on this card, and it's on the main card of all places. The initial fight on the prelims generally is an unspoken whatever. If it's a great fight, cool. It's almost implied that it's going to be just a fight to get the card rolling, so you don't generally anticipate that to be too good. The fluff, what we consider, generally comes later in the event when you really got the momentum building, the crowd starting to fill in, and then you throw a fight that's just going to be lackluster or doesn't have any impact or reason to be in the middle of the big portion of the fights. We ironically get ours on the main card. So we're just going to kind of nibble around that piece of grizzle, as it were, here. So the first fight that I do want to talk about is going to be probably the dark horse fight on this particular card here. I did not see one single bit of promotion for this fucking fight until yesterday when the UFC made one of those little 10-second look at the last time, or look at the big highlight reel we saw from this fighter that they're doing for a promotion like this. they're generally half-hearted. It's generally an older fucking clip, and that's exactly what we saw here. The fight that I'm talking about is Lando, air quotes, the groovy one, Venata, versus Yancy Medeiros. The clip that the UFC was rolling of Lando Venata was of a very old fight of him against John Makdessi, where he knocked Makdessi down with a spinning heel kick. Credit, great kick, old highlight, not his best even at that. This is going to be kind of a weird matchup because both Lando Venata and Yancy Medeiros have very unorthodox style. They're both a bit of a conundrum to kind of figure out because they're not really predominant strikers. They're not really predominant grapplers or jiu-jitsu guys or Muay Thai style fighters, but they both have a little sprinkling of all of that in there, kind of a literal definition of, you know, master of many, or a knower of many, master of none kind of thing here. They both have very wide skill sets, but none of their skills are very polished, I think would be the best way to phrase it here. I think it's going to be a real interesting match to see how these two really go at each other, both being so unorthodox. But I think this is going to come down to one of those situations where we haven't really seen him doing his best work lately, but we know what he's capable of, and I think he's trying to get back on that track that he was on at one point in time, and I'm talking about Yancy Medeiros here. Ever since Yancy and Cowboy went at it, we haven't seen the same Yancy Medeiros, and it seems like it's just been one thing after another, kind of keeping him from getting back to the Medeiros that we actually saw once upon a time, just tearing through the fucking division here. And from the training videos that he's shown, from the press that he's done so far, he looks to be back on that trail, and he's got the confidence in himself to kind of help initiate that type of movement here. And against a weirdo like Lando Venata, there really is no way to make a safe pick, but from what I've seen doing my research on Mr. Medeiros here, I think Yancy is in a good place. I think he's got a good camp underneath him. I think we're going to see him come away with a victory. But I feel like with these two, I think it's going to end up in a judge's decision. I think these two will take it all the way to the end because there's no quit in either one of these dudes.
No, you're 100% right there. The only way those two quit is if somebody gets slapped. You've seen them. I've seen both of them go through fucking getting work round after round, lose a fight, and they were still ready to keep fighting. But I have to side on this one with Yancy Medeiros myself as well. And part of that is who he trains with. And he's training in Hawaii with Max Holloway. If you're training out of that camp there with them, those Hawaiians, they stick together. And look, Yancy Medeiros has fallen on some hard times, and by that I'm using a quote, just saying he's had a couple of rough fights here, but he's got the tool set to do it, and he fights awkward, which is fucking great because it throws a lot of fighters off, which is why we saw him initially on such a major tear running through the lightweight division. To be honest, I think he can do that again. Do I think he's going to get to a status where he actually makes a challenge for the belt? No, because right now the 155-pound division is looking pretty fucking thick up top there, and that's a hard cookie to crack for anybody. And unfortunately, I don't think that currently he doesn't have the right tool set for that. However, he can definitely become a top 10 fighter in my opinion. But it's going to take some work, and this is that first step here. Lando Venata, he's been a hot and cold fighter. He's either been fucking on fire or cold, and lately all we've seen is cold from both of these guys. So it's going to be interesting to see who shows up and can implement their shit. And what I'm wondering here, because both of them have had a pretty rough go of it, is this a fighter get cut fucking, or a winner get cut fucking fight here?
Right.
And is maybe that why they didn't promote it that much, because they want to be able to do just one of those really quiet releases.
Juan Adams' ass.
Yep. And I very well could see that happening. I mean, fuck. They even did the quiet release to Ben Saunders pretty much because how long has it been since he lost that last fight? It's been like 3 or 4 months
4 months now, I
that
think.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just now releasing him. I'm just saying, there's some strange shit going on there, and this might be one of those fights for the both of these guys. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, both of them could do fantastic in fucking Bellator or ONE FC,
Yeah.
and then make a comeback over here. But one of them's got to get their shit moving or pack their bags and get the fuck out, in my opinion. But I'm gonna side on Madero's side of this purely on who he's training with and what kind of training partners he's got.
Yeah. This is a good fight because they both have a lot to lose and their styles match up good. Lots of people think this will be fight of the night. I was watching Lando. I like Lando a lot. I was watching his interview where people say it was fight of the night, and he said he doesn't think so. He thinks he's going to get it done quick. It's a rough one though. Yeah, Lando's the most draws in the UFC roster with 2 draws. Two draws. So, man, I like both of them. This is a hard one. I guess I'll just go with Lando because that would have been my first guess. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Lando, but it's a rough one. I mean, obviously, Medeiros has a way better. He's got wins against a lot better fighters.
Bigger
He's got a
names,
fight of
yeah.
the year, 2017, against Alex Oliveira.
That was a great fucking fight, too.
Yeah, and he's got 2 times fight of the night and 3 times performance of the night. So,
Yeah, we've seen Yancey look real fucking good, but it seems like for whatever reason, ever since, and it was weird because it was another one of those fights for Cowboy where he respected the guy. There was no trash talking. They fucking hugged before the fucking, or at the weigh-ins and shit. Like, there was no animosity, and for whatever reason, after that fucking fight, Yancey just hasn't really looked the same.
Yeah. I mean, he also had a rough fight, the last one with Gregor Gillespie, so that's a rough one, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I would say if I was a betting man, go with Yancey, but I'm going to go with Lando.
Interesting. So, the next one I want to talk about here real quick is another one of those interesting matchups where the UFC, again, is bringing in a new guy, and I don't know if it's because they're bringing in a new guy to see if he can hang, or they're bringing in a new guy against the vet because they're looking for an excuse to cut the vet if he loses. But we're talking about Rogério Boturin versus Ray Borg making his debut back down to 125 pounds after the very surprising and not so ideal look at the 135-pound Ray Borg the last time we saw him out there. For me, Ray Borg at 125 is probably the cream of the fucking crop since Demetrius is gone. A flying fucking video game armbar aside, there's nothing that DJ did to Ray that he wasn't ready for in that match. Obviously, he was a little more aggressive. He had a little more octagon control, but that's DJ's style. He also put up a hell of a fight, and Ray Borg has really ripped his fucking way through 125 to earn his place at the top of that division. And I feel like with Mighty Mouse gone and Henry being the fucking joke that he is right now, 125 is going to be one of the new hotbeds. 125 and 135, I'm telling you right now, maybe not the early part of this year, but by the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, 125 and 135 is going to be one of the biggest fucking hotbeds, at least in the UFC, because of all the shakeups we've got going on now that everyone is finally tired of Henry Cejudo's bullshit and his bottlenecking 2 divisions. Ray Borg, I feel if he gets back on that momentum train that he had when he was fighting Demetrius, because he fought for the 125-pound belt against the greatest 125er we ever fucking saw, and only lost because DJ pulled a move straight out of a goddamn video game that no one was ready for. Least of all, Ray fucking Borg. So, I feel like back at 125 where he's comfortable, because 135 was even weird for him. He said so himself. back at 125 where he's comfortable, if he can get back into that groove that he had himself in, I think Ray Borg is realistically on a fucking target straight back for that fucking title shot at 125. And I feel bad for Mr. Botarine, but I think Borg is going to run through this motherfucker. I don't think we see a third round here.
No, I'm right there with you. Borg is back at his weight where he does fantastic fucking work. I think that jump up in 10 pounds, that made a fucking huge difference on what he could and couldn't do. At the 125 pound, he's strong and big. 135 pound, he was undersized, and we saw that when he fought there. He looked small, and he didn't look right. Like, he didn't even look like he had the speed advantage, which was strange because he's a fast motherfucker.
He's quick as shit. Yeah, that was weird to
And
see him
I'm wondering
slow.
if it had something to do with that the whole prep of getting to 135 because he's so used to being a
Not used to being
125er.
there. Yeah, I agree.
And don't get me wrong, we're always praising people fight at your natural weight class. Yeah, this is an extra weight that he has to cut to get to 125, but that's all we've ever seen him at. We've seen the one fight at 135. There's a flop. I'm glad to see him back down in what's been his normal weight class because we know what he can do here and what he's done in the past. I think it's time for that tear back to the top, and it's time to go take the throne. Look, Demetrius Johnson hit the special button that's connected on the back of the controller that nobody could see to hit that
He
flying
fucking
armbar. You don't see that in these flyweights. Not in this fucking 125 pound division. That is not a normal thing. They're way too fast 99% of the time to get caught in something like that. However, Demetrius Johnson, way different level than everybody else.
Yeah, literally.
So I can't even hold that against Borg. And to be honest, I think Borg can run the tables here and take the fucking title without question. I mean, to be quite honest, Trinchudo's just lucky it wasn't Borg that he had to fight. And he's also lucky because he got a really piss poor decision. But, whatever. Again, one of those things that we've been talking about, bad judging and all of that nonsense. But whatever. Talking about Ray Borg here, he's going to run through him. He's going to make his run right back to the top. And I'm calling he's going to be the champ. Not this year. Probably late 2021, possibly early 2022. I mean, unless he decides to fight 4 times in a year.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Ray Borg is title worthy. I like Ray Borg. I'm gonna pick Ray Borg, but this guy Rogerio
Botarin.
That's a fucking lady killer name right there.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, I might change my pick. He's
Right.
16-1 too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 16-1. I never even heard of him.
He's new to the UFC now.
He's got 2 fights in the UFC, and both of them were to Sukans.
Yep.
Okay.
Which somehow he still managed to get a really high ranking in the fucking 125 pound division. That just says it's a little thin down there.
Right.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't watch like all of the prelims all the time. Like this one, I'll watch almost all the prelims because they are good fights.
Hell yeah.
But so I miss these smaller guys. I mean, I know he's new, but lots of them I don't know. I wish they would mix it up sometimes. I know they do it weight wise and stuff like that. But maybe they should just do it rankings and that's it. But yeah, I'll go Ray Borg.
I think it's gonna be a good match. I don't think he's gonna I don't think we're gonna see no fucking 40-second shoulder strike Conor McGregor fucking stoppage, but I think Borg's gonna use this guy to start building some fucking momentum and head back on that tear up top. Excuse me, fuck. So that will bring us to the other half of our BJJ power couple here. Montana De La Rosa versus Mara Borella, the Italian badass. So this one, for me, is where the the what if factor comes into play. Um, just looking at the basic research for the fighters here, you're inclined to get a feeling that Mark De La Rosa has, at least on paper, the upper hand. And I agree. We say it all the time. You can't rely on MMA math. You don't bank on MMA math. But you can get an inclination. Unless something crazy happens, you can generally get a feel of how things should progress based on stylistic matchups, experience, things like that. This is where that what if factor for me comes into the possibility of these two making history. I think Mark De La Rosa has a much better chance of making his way through his match with a victory than Montana has. And that's not to say that I don't think she can do it. What I'm saying is she has got much stiffer competition compared to her skill level than I feel like Mark does. I'm not saying he's got a full soup can either. He's still got a good fight. But I feel like Mara here is a little bit closer to Montana's level. She's a little bit more of a dominant striker, and we've seen Montana have issues when she gets struck trying to set up her jiu-jitsu. And I hate to say it, but I think this has a real potential to be another one of those situations here, unless she went back after her last fight and she worked on some of those holes that we saw in her game. Now, if that's the case, if she's gone back and tightened up some of those loose spots we saw in her game working against strikers before, and she's got a little bit of a finer edge to her now, and she knows a little bit more about how to stay off that center line and how to work around some of the striking to set up her jiu-jitsu, I think that could change everything here. And I think based off of them referring to themselves as the jiu-jitsu couple, that's kind of their pride. They take pride in being great jiu-jitsu practitioners. I feel like that would have been something that she would have went back and worked on, especially with her husband, who I feel is the better of the jiu-jitsu player between the two of them. I think that could be something that he could have been able to help her with a lot. And seeing as how they train with each other basically every fucking day, it's hard to think that at least a little bit of that hasn't rubbed off since the last time we saw Montana in the ring here. So I don't think that this is going to be an easy one. I have a feeling that this is going to come down to Montana using that jiu-jitsu, because I feel like Mara's going to bring the fucking pressure. She's going to try and stay in Montana's face. She's going to try and get those strikes in to interrupt her, because we've seen it work in the past. But I feel like once we get this one to the ground, because I feel like it's going to end up there, I feel like once we get this to the ground, Montana's going to be able to take control, turn the fucking gears on, and really get to work. And I think we're going to see a submission here from Montana to end her match, but I think it's going to be late. I think we're going to see mid-third, maybe late in the third. I don't think we go to full decision, but I don't think this one ends early either. I think this is a little bit of a war, but then I think Montana really gets into it, and I feel like she's going to be able to bring it home in the third.
Oh, you just about nailed that right on the head. Just what I was thinking. Because with Montana's last fight against KGB, Andrew Lee there, KGB picked her apart. She showed every fucking hole in her stand-up. Montana De La Rosa, not a striker. Calling it right out as it is, not a striker at all. And we know that. There's reason for the whole moniker between her and her husband. The big thing for me is, has she learned to dodge a punch, slip a punch, to be able to set up a takedown, to actually get in and take a striker down like Mara? Mara's a straight striker. Her jiu-jitsu game, nowhere near the same level as De La Rosa's. Nowhere near.
Not even close now.
If Mara keeps this on the feet, she wins this via points. I'm not going to say she's going to finish her, because I don't think she will. Montana's a tough girl. She didn't get finished by KGB, and KGB picked her apart.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I don't think that she's going. I don't think she's going to lose this, because I think she will have, after having that happen to her, went back and said, you know what? I need to cinch this up before I can move forward. So if by some odd reason she didn't, she's going to end up getting beat on the fucking feet. However, if she's cinched that up, figured out how to throw a decent jab to get in close enough to set up a takedown and slip some punches, she's going to win it, get it on the ground, and end up submitting Mara. I don't know if I'm guessing it'll probably be third round before that happens, though, because I don't think she's going to have enough oomph in her jab to get enough respect from Mara right away in order to be able to set up an easy takedown. Either that or she better be on fucking point and just have one of the best fucking entries for a takedown we've ever seen out of her, because that'll be the only way that she finishes it early. But if this goes the distance, she ends up losing the points, because there's no way that Mara doesn't keep it on the feet. She knows what's coming.
So okay, so it doesn't look good for Mara Barella. Her last loss was to Lauren Murphy. She also lost to Caitlin Cocahagen. I probably didn't say that
Choke
right.
again.
But choke again. So that don't look good. I like De La Rosa, but yeah, I'm looking at her Wikipedia. Mara Romero Borella.
Mm-hmm.
She has a 26-year suspension for selling and distributing cocaine and marijuana in Italy. What? She gangster.
I knew I liked her
Yeah.
for a reason. I didn't realize why, though.
What the hell? Damn. Wow. Okay.
Well, that just tells you she's been fighting her whole life. That's all that does.
Oh, shit.
Jesus. Man, I gotta look at them more often. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna pick De La Rosa.
Yeah, I think with the BJJ, I think plus she's one of those. She's young enough. She's not set in stone in her techniques. I think she's real good about learning. And plus, her husband's a badass, and they steel sharpens steel, and they're training on the fucking daily. So I think she gets it here. So now, this is the point in the show where we try to retract the fangs a little bit, and we lean back and we woo-saw, and we turn on some new age music, and we get that Enya vibe going, and we drop the blood pressure back to normal, and we let the rabidness of our hardcore fandom kind of fade back. And normally this would be the point where we would bring in our favorite casual, Miss Lumi, but she is actually under the weather this evening. So on her behalf, I'm going to make some casual picks here, because I know for a fact that she's going to want to see Jim Miller win, because she's been riding Cowboy's ass ever since he fucking head kicked Jim Miller. So I know for a fact she's going to want Jim Miller to win. And based on the Lumi casual style that she has developed, I'm going to go ahead and make a pick for her in favor of Diego Sanchez over Michael Pereira, because in Lumi terms, she likes crazy over flashy, and Pereira is definitely flashy versus Diego's crazy. So we're going to give her Diego for her casual pick on that side. And then in the second one, since they're both big dudes and they both have fairly even records, she got a good kick out of seeing Luke Rockhold get his, and she wasn't really impressed like the rest of us with Johnny Walker's fucking defeat at the Kansas Corey. So I think she's going to be on Team Polish Power for that one as well.
Well, what color is Corey Anderson? What color corner?
See, now you're getting too into the research, man. You're looking into it too much.
This is why we need Lumi.
I know, right? But we wish her a speedy recovery. She's under the weather this evening as well, so we wish her a speedy recovery, and then we will flush that casualness aside and get back into the foaming, rabid mouth lucidity that is our normal section of the show here, and bring us into the potatoes au gratin on our fancy feast meal o' plenty this evening in the co-main event of one Diego the Nightmare Sanchez versus Michael the I can't make weight but I still want to do a fucking backflip Pereira. So this is quite literally one of those where we are looking at gentlemen who we have a crazy one and we have a flashy one. Diego might be one of the least mentally stable fighters on the UFC roster. That being said, he still puts on some of the most entertaining fights, win or lose, because that gentleman does not understand conservation of energy either. He's another one of those that when the first bell rings, he puts the gas pedal to the floor and it stays there till the fight ends or the fucking engine blows. He doesn't understand speed limits. The opposite side of that is then you look over at Michael Pereira, who has only been in the UFC for, I think, a total of 8 months now, in his debut, missed weight, attempted a backflip off the scale at the ceremonial weigh-ins, missed it, and then in his fight versus Tristan Connolly, spent literally the first 2+ minutes of the fight trying to land capoeira kicks and front flip and then a back flip kick on Tristan Connolly, none of which worked. Big fucking surprise, I know. And then he gassed himself out, and Tristan Connolly beat the shit out of him, justifiably so. So, on one hand, we haven't really seen a whole lot from Michael Pereira, but then you look at the press that he's done this week, and he says that if you thought his first fight was flashy, wait till you see what he's going to do this time. That he has no urge to tame himself down and fight in a quote-unquote normal fashion, that he wants to be jumpy, he wants to be flashy, he wants that to help him make his mark in the UFC. And, you know, I get it, everybody wants to be famous for something, everybody wants to have that be, you know, their thing. Backflipping in a fucking octagon when you're supposed to be punching and gassing out in the first fucking round shouldn't be either of the ones you want to be your thing. And that's, at this point, all we really fucking know him for. He's got, from what we've seen, mediocre striking, mediocre takedown defense, and a very questionable chin. And when you put a guy like Diego Sanchez up in front of him, who's not going to give you the distance that Tristan Connolly did, you go to do a backflip, Diego's going to catch you on his shoulder and give you a 360 fucking DDT pile driver, courtesy of Captain Insano. Like, this dude is not fucking right, and he's not going to play you fair like Tristan Connolly did. He's not going to give you the opportunities that you had to be a, you know, flashy asshole against a guy who took a fight on 5 days' notice and was still a little timid because that was his fucking UFC debut. This ain't what you're looking at in Diego Sanchez. This dude ain't fucking right. He'll rip his own ear off and throw it at you, and then Liu Kang bicycle kick you across the fucking ring for not catching it for him. Like, that's the kind of crazy we talk about with Diego Sanchez here. And I don't think Ferreira has any kind of fucking planning ready for the crazy shit that Diego's going to bring him. I don't see this fight making the second round. I think Diego takes him out in the first.
I don't think there's anything that Michael has ever ran across in his entire life that's come happen near the amount of crazy that is about to go on here.
No.
I'm wondering how many interviews of Diego's he's actually watched at this point to realize the amount of crazy. Because, look, if you guys have not seen any, it doesn't matter how long it's been, you can go look at his interviews from 10 years ago. They're just as crazy then
Yes, they
they are fucking now.
Just different
It
haircuts.
is not a CTE thing for him. It's just Diego Sanchez being Diego Sanchez.
Yep.
The only strange thing that has ever happened in his career, other than him being strange, is going from the nickname The Nightmare to The Dream and then back to The Nightmare.
Yep.
Yeah. Little strange, but hey, whatever. I'm guessing it depends on which side of the bed he woke up on, whether he's the dream or the nightmare
Right.
at that point. But either way, Pierre's got a whole bunch of nightmare coming his way, no matter which moniker Diego Sanchez is using.
Yeah.
And he said he will blow the fucking engine out of that thing before he lets off the gas. And even then, he's going to Fred Flintstone that motherfucker across the cage and keep on going. He don't give a goddamn. You know, that's, to be honest, that's always been one of my favorite things about him is there is no off switch unless he gets shut off, which is rare. You're looking at a fucking war. Michael's not going to have room to be flashy. There's not going to be enough space between him and Diego to be flashy. Diego's going to come in, fucking chin down, booking ass across that cage to close the distance, to get in that phone booth and just fucking let loose caboose. Because, man, he's a fucking train wreck when he fights. It is fantastic to see whether that train derails or not. Because if it doesn't, Pierre's in a whole lot of trouble. But Diego, on the other side, we've seen some greatness out of him lately, and then we've seen him get his ass whipped. And it's kind of an odd thing to watch. Knowing Diego Sanchez has been around for a long fucking time. I think he's been with the UFC since the mid 2000s as well. He's kind of like the Jim Miller, only crazy version. He's been around for a long time and had a lot of wars.
He was in Ultimate Fighter 1.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Only
Back in the first season that made or broke the UFC. That was what was literally going to make this work to where we are today.
Yep, he's the
And
only
we had
active
one of-
fighter from them.
Yeah, he is. Goddamn, he is the only active fighter left, isn't he?
He is.
Son of a bitch. That's crazy. Yeah, and that doesn't tell you something. And he's been the same way even since the Ultimate Fighter 1. Go back.
Fuck yeah, he has.
Go watch him talking in there. Oh, like, you don't have to interview the man. He interviews you for yourself. He interviews
He
himself
goes
for
off
you.
on his own, yeah.
And if you really want a good time, go look at his YouTube channel or his Instagram page. Just watch.
Oh, man.
The fucking train wreck is immaculate to watch. It's fucking fantastic. If you're in need for some entertainment or some cheering up, it's a good time. But I think Diego gets this one done, and I don't think we see a second round here. I really don't. I think he's going balls to the walls, and he's going to put Michael to sleep and maybe teach Michael that maybe I don't need to try to be flashy. I need to learn how to deal with crazy first.
Yeah. I don't mind the flashy too much. I don't mind the flashy too much. The shit before getting to the cage irks the shit out of me. That shit pisses me off. When you're doing flips and shit before you even get into the cage,
Yeah.
that shit's just it's stupid during a fight. It's fun to watch. It's fucking hella fun to watch. It's also hella fun to watch Tristan fucking whoop his ass after that too.
Right?
So, Diego Sanchez, if he's half as good as what he's talking about right now, then he's gonna fucking whoop this dude's ass. I think Meter missed an opportunity when he was talking about foaming at the mouth, because Diego Sanchez has actually foamed at the mouth during the fight.
Literally, yes.
And he will eat them flying kicks. He'll probably entertain the fact and say, bring on them flying kicks, and then come at you. So I like Diego Sanchez. Yeah, and he's in 170, which is interesting. I would like to see him win this. Actually, I missed something else too. I'd like to see Diego win this and fight somebody like Mike Perry or Bam Bam. What's his name? I forget his name. His nickname's Bam Bam. He fought Vicente
Tai
Luque.
Tuivasa?
No, he fought Vicente Luque, and they went all
Brian
the-
Barberina.
Yeah.
Barberina would be, dude. Barberina versus Diego at 170 would be an interesting matchup because they're both fucking crazy. Brian Barberina's Looney Tunes can fucking get as well.
Yeah, I think
That's
Mike
fucking
Perry.
Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck in the
No
same fucking
shit,
place.
dude. Be a duck season, wabbit season battle.
Yeah, I missed something with the Lando fight too. Lando said that he would like Jim Miller if they both won.
Yeah,
That's one of the things.
which
he
I
said.
think would also be an interesting matchup as well.
But I'll take Diego Sanchez, and yeah, that's it. I think I got everything. Yeah.
I think that's gonna be interesting to see how it fucking plays out. But regardless of anything else on the card, I think this is one of the few times where I 100% agree with the placement of the co-main event, because if for any fucking reason this card, by some strange fucking coincidence, ends up in a wrestle fucking hug fest and is boring as shit for the first couple fights, I guarantee you with every penny I own that Diego Sanchez fight is going to be interesting one way or another, and it's going to get you fucking hyped.
Fuck, just seeing him coming out gets you hyped, because he's fucking hyper from the onset. Just
gets fucking Looney Tunes right out the gate, coming out the tunnel. No, that's going to set you up for damn sure.
It's fun to watch him try to grease him up because he won't sit still.
Hold still, never. He never fucking holds still, man. That's why I love when they have House doing the grease man, because when House is the grease man, he will literally grab Diego by the fucking shoulder that he's got the grease on. Most refs will just stand there and hold their hand like this with the base of their arm resting on the fighter's shoulder so they can get access to the grease to put it on their forehead. No. House will physically fucking grab Diego by the shoulder and hold him there while he fucking greases him so he can't physically run away from him. I fucking love watching that shit. We've seen it a couple times now. But, that being said, that will bring us into the beautifully plated with microgreen steak au pois that is the main event of this fucking evening here. Finally, a non-pay-per-view event where we can legitimately get fucking excited about the main event on the card again. I'm very fucking happy that we get that, because I don't know how many more this year we're legitimately going to end up with, the way that shit's already getting swapped around. So I'm going to take my moment and fucking thoroughly embrace the fact that we've got a fucking good one here to close out the UFC show Saturday night. We have got Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz to wrap out the fucking show. And boys and girls, this one is probably the most important fight in the 205-pound division right now. This one is directly going to play into the end of last weekend's UFC 247.
I'm going to let you finish here in just a moment. I just want to let you all know that Jim Miller is the fight of this card. I'm going to let you finish.
Thank you, Kanye. Oh, that was awesome. For any of you who didn't catch that, that was our favorite casual popping in for just a moment to Kanye West, my Taylor Swift speech here. Oh, and that's exactly why we love Miss Lumi. So, we have got a fight in Corey Anderson versus Jan Blachowicz that very well could, and for all intents and purposes, should determine the next title contender in the 205 division. The only thing that I could say that might still be something that needs to be worked out here once this all shakes loose would be to see how Thiago Santos is looking. How's Thiago's knee? Because that fight, I guarantee you, should keep him in the top 5, top 3 arguably. And then we've still got Dominic Reyes, who just took Jones to 5 and arguably fucking beat him, if not for idiots like Joe Solis. You can't knock Dom too far out of the fucking lead as well. So now you start looking at, while Dom's healing up, John's not going to take that long to heal up as well. Where's Thiago Santos fall into play here? But other than that, the winner of these two, especially in dominant fashion, I think is going to be the next person we see come up against John Jones for that light heavyweight belt. And this is an interesting matchup to determine that as well, because both of these gentlemen have been around for a good minute and have both, within the same relative time period, started to really put some fucking steam behind themselves and build a genuine head of momentum behind both of their fucking runs right now. And, you know, it's almost inevitable that these two were going to meet somewhere up at the top here. But stylistically, this is a very, very different matchup than most people will take it, because this, on paper, looks like two giant 205 dudes who are going to box it the fuck out. Somebody's going to get knocked out. It's going to be a quick fight, blah, blah, blah. No. No. Because aside from having great fucking power, Corey Anderson is a legitimate world-class wrestler and grappler. And aside from not having the greatest takedown defense, some fucking how, Jan Blachowicz is actually a pretty fucking recognizable jiu-jitsu practitioner. So this fight, whether it stays on the feet or goes to the ground, is going to be interesting no matter how it plays out. The biggest factor, I think, for this fight to be determined is going to be like a lot of the bigger guys have lately. It's going to come down to this thing that we talk about all the time, the game plan. Because when you've got guys who have as much tape as Blachowicz and Anderson does, you can research all day, but in a situation like this, both of those guys also have a high enough fight IQ to not come in doing the things that they traditionally do, to switch up their styles in little ways to make sure that the opponent who's done the research doesn't have the exact thing that they can do, even if they have an idea of some of their tricks and their methods. This is going to be one of those where who can get your game plan in and stick to it and make it work is going to determine where this fight goes. We can almost guarantee Corey Anderson's game plan is to get this giant fucking Pollock on his back and to beat the shit out of him. And we can almost guarantee Jan Blachowicz's game plan is going to be when Corey Anderson shoots, punch him in the fucking head and don't go to the ground. Now, will that actually happen for either one? That's a very, very, very precarious thing to try and pick apart. I love Corey Anderson. He has been on an absolute fucking tear lately, but I think Blachowicz has paid his fucking dues at this point, and I think as long as he's got his takedown defense sharpened up like he says he has, and I hope he really does, I think Corey Anderson is going to have a big fucking problem because Jan has faced wrestlers before, and as long as he is on point like he should be with his wrestling defense, knowing that that's what he's up against, we should see a well-striking, good foot movement using Jan Blachowicz striking his way to keep Corey Anderson where he wants him till he can put him out, because Jan has knockout power at any point in the goddamn fight. But the question comes in, Corey knows that Jan is going to be trying to strike him. Corey knows that Jan's going to be headhunting to a certain degree. Has he adjusted his wrestling, his shoot-ins, his takedowns to kind of accommodate for that gigantic power that realistically not a lot of Corey's previous enemies have had? Johnny Walker didn't really have that one-shot KO power. He has awkward styles and can catch you with power and knock you out, but nothing like the likes of a fucking Jan Blachowicz right hook or a well-timed backpedaling left hook, ask Luke fucking Rockhold. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup, but I don't feel like this one is going to the judges. I feel like Jan's going to be able to get his game plan in place, and he's going to be able to outwork Corey in the striking department when Corey starts to get, I hate to use it, but it's the term, desperation takedowns. Because most of the guys that have the wrestling backgrounds, when their game plan doesn't work, they default back to their desperation takedowns. And when you can see him making those sloppy takedown attempts, that's when you leave yourself wide open for big fucking shots. And as much as I like Corey, we've seen him shoot a lot of desperation takedowns before, or takedown attempts before, and Jan's got a big hand and a real good fucking, real clean, crisp strike. So I think if it comes down to it and they get in there together, I think Jan's going to take it. I think Jan's going to put Corey to sleep in a very violent fashion, and I think we see it in the end of the third.
With all of that being said, before I even get into any breakdowns, brought up a couple things before we even got into this. Where's Thiago Santos with his fucking knee right now? Dom Reyes, Champ John Jones right now. Right now, I highly doubt that the UFC makes an immediate rematch for Dominic Reyes. I highly doubt it. I think what they're banking on is winner of this fight gets shot at the title. In the meantime, while that's happening, this is my thoughts going through my head. The fight I would love to see, Reyes, Santos. And whoever wins that fight gets that next shot.
Gets the
Just
rematch.
to be honest, both of them are fucking more than deserving after their showings against fucking Johns.
Yeah,
And
100%.
to be honest, I think a winner of that fight, automatic rematch, gets their second chance at it. In the meantime, while that's going on, though, I think this is winner of this fight should get the fight against Jones, so that way the UFC gets their, oh, we're not just going to show you the same fights over and over shit. But both of these guys are both deserving of it too if they win. But just wanted to put that out there because that's kind of how I feel about the situation right now, knowing that Santos is still rehabbing his knee. Technically, Reyes has until Thursday to be fully healed, and so does Jones. But, you know, we know we're not going to see that instant rematch because, one, Jones isn't going to sign that contract right away. Even though he's had rematches with people in the past, but he's made them wait for it, a la DC, a la Gustafsson. those ones have had to been waiting for to see those rematches. And what's really scary for those opponents, he's dominated them in the second fights badly because he's taken them more seriously when he's come that close to getting his ass beat. But back to this here. You made a good strong point right off the get-go that I want to say is also a weakness here. Corey Anderson, fantastic fucking wrestler. However, do you know who he trained with wrestling? Ben Askren, another world-class wrestler. That's who he trained with. He wasn't looking to get into MMA. Ben Askren got him into MMA. You know what those two have in common? They both shoot with their fucking heads up. Like a traditional wrestler. They don't take shots like an MMA person does when they're going for a takedown. They come in head up, ready to scoop, because they're traditional wrestlers. They train together, that same fucking concept. That's what gets people caught with flying knees in fucking 15 seconds or whatever the moniker was. But that's a really bad thing for Corey Anderson when you're going with Jan Blachowicz on the other side of the fucking octagon from you, because that dude has fucking fists that have been putting people in orbit on the back step. And at 205, that's a scary fucking thing. He's been just murdering people. And the only thing that makes me more happy with Blachowicz right now is they finally got away from giving him somebody who's moving up from 185. Which is great. I don't mind having him as the 185 killer. That's fucking awesome. But he's better than that. He didn't need to take those fights.
Plus, that's John Jones' job.
Yeah, exactly. But on the other side of that, he was fighting some really big names, which was fucking good. Luke Rockhold, former champion middleweight area. Guess what? I would take that fight too if I was in his shoes. Just because he's moving up the weight class, but because of the name and what it carried with it. And I think that's kind of what got him here, although I think he was already deserving of that prior to those last couple 185ers that moved up to 205 that he fought. And he's been dispatching them. So, I mean, it is what it is, but I think he's getting the credit he deserves now, as does Corey Anderson on the other side of the house, because he's been tearing through people. And you're right, we've seen him make some desperation takedown attempts, but he's completed them. But he also hasn't fought anybody else like Blachowicz, who's got that one-punch fucking precise striking ability to hit you moving away, moving forward, in the phone booth. He hasn't fought anybody like that yet. And I think this is where that precision striking of Blachowicz comes into play here. And I actually think he gets this done inside of 2 rounds. I don't think this makes a 3rd round. I think Blachowicz is going to put him out, because what's going to happen is Anderson's going to come in there with a fucking head-up takedown, and we're going to see him catching him in with that fucking chin way up while he's looking for a takedown. And it's not going to be a flying knee, but it sure as fuck going to be a nasty fucking hook or fucking cross. One of the two. Mark my words, inside of 2, Blachowicz gets it done, KO victory.
All right. Well, this is a rough fight. It's a good fight here. This is a lot on the line. These two fought before 5 years ago. Corey Anderson won. I think Corey Anderson's going to win kind of in the same fashion, even though they're probably different fighters. I think Corey Anderson, he's coming from a good camp. I think he actually listens to his coach like Frankie does. Not all the fighters do. I don't, but I think Mark Henry's a good coach.
Yeah, he absolutely
And
is.
when people listen to him and do his game plan, and I just like how Corey talks. He wasn't a fan favorite after beating Johnny Walker. I kind of liked it. I
thought
kind
it
of
was
liked
good.
that. Yeah, I think that he needed to do something like that and just say fuck the UFC a little bit, because he doesn't get treated as well as he should.
Absolutely, he
But,
was getting overlooked. He legitimately was, and I think that Corey
Yeah.
Walker, that fucking that Johnny Walker, when the fucking ref had to hold him back because he was fucking still screaming at him after the stoppage, I liked it,
Yeah.
man. I liked it. He was fucking in the moment, and he wants fucking respect. I dig
Yeah.
it.
I do. I mean, Corey Anderson was going to win that fight anyway. I do think they stopped that fight a little early, but I think he's going to win anyway. I don't. I don't like stopping a fight when somebody's on their feet.
Right.
But yeah, I like Corey Anderson. I just like the way he talks. I think he seems super confident, a little more than Jan does this this week. So I think that confidence from winning the first one's going to help him. But then again, it might put a fire under Jan's ass. So who knows? But I'm going to go with Corey because that was my first thoughts on it. I think Corey's going to go fight John Jones next. I see him standing a better chance against John Jones. So, yeah, that's how I see it.
There's one other thing that I thought about. There's a little bit of an MMA math in here that I thought of that I really can't count on. However, there's a couple of guys that Anderson fought that he's lost to that Blachowicz has beat, and vice versa, which makes it interesting. So it's kind of hard to say who's going to win those. Like, fucking Anderson fought Jimmy Manoa. Jimmy Manoa won. But Jimmy Manoa fought fucking Blachowicz. Blachowicz blew him out of the water. So it's kind of there's some strange MMA math going on here, and it could go either way when I look at it that way but we know MMA math is fucking trash. So I don't even know why I brought that up other than I thought about it afterwards. Wait a minute. But, you know.
Maybe it'll be a draw and they could both fight John Jones and maybe win.
I mean,
no, there'll still be a bad judging decision at some point.
Right.
That 2-all-1.
Yeah, the way that the UFC is going, tag team matches might not be that far out.
Yeah. Have you ever watched any of them, like the 3-on-3s and stuff like that?
Yeah, they've got some. I can't remember the name of the organization off the top of my head right now, but there's an organization in Russia that does 10-man on 10-man obstacle course, full contact MMA combat matches. There's like
crazy.
15 referees who are in like literal football gear with the black and white stripes. And there's like cameras on zip lines in the ceiling following all the action. It's fucking insane, man. You see four
like
dudes
gang
bum rush a
fighting,
dude.
basically.
Yeah. 4 dudes bum rush a guy and they beat the shit out of him. And then one dude comes jumping WWE style for a ninja kick off a barrel. It's like, it's fucking crazy, man. We're heading that way.
Yeah, they have like shit like sword fights versus mace, like a mace
Yeah.
versus a sword. There's some crazy shit on the internet.
Yeah, they're getting weird, man, and we're definitely fucking heading that way.
Oh.
Oh, but that being said, that's all that we are going to have for you wonderful folks this evening. So, please remember, if we made you giggle, give us a thumbs up. If we gave you a new point of view, maybe some interesting topics to think about, maybe subscribe. If we really tickled your fancy, share an episode for us. We'd appreciate it. We're trying to grow this damn thing. But on the other side of that coin, if we just seemed like a couple of dumbasses with a random cool pop-in to help try and make it seem more appealable, just give us the thumbs down. We earned it, and we won't dispute it. But before we get out of here, I want to take a moment and thank the fine folks who helped me make this shenanigans show a possibility. First and foremost, our lovely casual pop-in, the one and only Miss Lumi, who still took a moment out of her ill-feeling day to come in and talk some shit and make me look like a goober. So thank you to her first and foremost. But if for some reason, despite this being a 2-hour fucking show, folks have not figured out the coolest place to catch underground fights in Fishtown, how are they going to be able to get a hold of you to get that info, Nick Devine?
You can find me on Instagram and YouTube n.divine83. Thank you all for watching. Anybody that was in live chat all night, thank you. And had fun, guys. Can't wait until next week. We got another good card next week, too.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, I'll see you. Have a great week. Have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, sir. And then, now, if for some reason folks just don't understand why Green Bay is good for more than just cheese and Packers fan, and they need to get a proper schooling, how are folks going to be able to get a hold of you to get that lesson taught to them, TJ?
Wednesday nights, right here on the YouTubes. Salty Vapes, 9:30 Central Time. Come hang out with us. I will gladly talk shit to you then. The occasional surprise Saturday shows, which we have in the works. We're just finding an open weekend where there's not kicky, punchy things. Which that's getting a lot more difficult now with how many events are going on every year now. But also, you can message me on the Instagrams. I don't post on there, but I will answer DMs. So those are the places. Come hang out. It's a blast. I'm ready for next week's show already, and there's shit going on next month. There's so much going on already this year. It's fucking fantastic. It's gonna be a great year for us.
Hell yes, we have absolutely got a very, very big 2020 lined up here for all the platforms, for all the shows. I'm No Joe included. We have got some huge things in the works that I cannot wait to show you fine folks. I will give you this little tidbit before we head out, though. If ever you have thought about becoming a patron to support the I'm No Joe podcast, I don't want to angle like I'm coming after your fucking money, but I will say this. There is some exclusive I'm No Joe content on the Patreon that you can only see as a patron, and it is some of the greatest content I feel that has ever been produced. So if you're inclined, take a gander over there. You won't regret it. But that's all we have for this evening. So we're going to call that all for now. I appreciate everybody who watches this, whether you're catching this on a replay or you're here with us in the live chat. I appreciate each and every one of you that helped me make the I'm No Joe podcast a thing. And remember, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything. Unless you somehow still think that Epstein really didn't kill himself, in which case...
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. But they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up, they were chopping them down. It's an ancient Chinese art, and everybody knew their part. From a fainting to a slip, and a kicking from the hip. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening, but they fought with expert timing.
I'm sorry is the phrase she hates the most, but I don't know what else to say. I try to talk it out, but she don't wanna. It only makes things worse.